I'm going to play for you a video clip of what Michael Wolff said Epstein told him was in the safe and what he showed the author was in this safe. Okay, so that's great. So wouldn't it be great if FBI subpoenaed the estate of Jeffrey Epstein for all that information?
The estate is under no obligation to provide that material, even pursuant to a subpoena. That's a great point.
Yeah, that's just false.
Okay.
That's just false. You're the FBI. You can subpoena the information from the estate, and you better do that.
Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and press the bell icon so you never miss another update. Kash Patel walked into that hearing believing he was fully prepared. Hours of questioning were already behind him. He had answered inquiries about national security, FBI operations, internal procedures, and the Jeffrey Epstein investigation itself. The room had settled into a predictable rhythm. Questions came. Officials responded carefully. Lawmakers moved from topic to topic. But then Congressman Ted Lieu changed the direction of the hearing completely. He did not begin with outrage. He did not raise his voice. He did not rely on conspiracy theories or internet rumours. Instead, he focused on something far more difficult to avoid: direct questions about publicly documented evidence. Within minutes, what appeared to be a routine congressional hearing transformed into one of the most discussed exchanges involving the FBI in recent memory. Ted Lieu began with journalist Michael Wolff, a writer who has publicly claimed to possess nearly 100 hours of recorded conversations with Jeffrey Epstein. These recordings were not anonymous leaks or hidden material circulating online. Portions had already been released publicly and discussed by major news organizations for years. Wolff himself openly described his interviews with Epstein and the material Epstein allegedly showed him during those meetings. Lieu asked Patel a straightforward question. Had the FBI spoken to Michael Wolff? Patel hesitated before answering. He said he personally had not asked to speak with Wolff, and added that he would have to check whether the FBI itself had done so. Lieu immediately followed up. Would it be important for the FBI to interview someone holding 100 hours of Epstein recordings? Patel carefully responded that he was not saying the FBI had not spoken to Wolff. He simply did not know. Then came the next question. Had the FBI subpoenaed the tapes? Once again, Patel answered with the same phrase. He did not know. That answer immediately shifted the atmosphere in the room because of who Patel was. He was not a lower-level investigator unfamiliar with the details of the case. He was the director of the FBI, the person ultimately responsible for the Bureau's investigative credibility. When the FBI director says I don't know about one of the most publicly scrutinized criminal investigations in modern history, people notice immediately. Ted Lieu understood exactly how significant that uncertainty sounded in a public hearing. Before entering Congress, Lieu served as a military lawyer in the United States Air Force, conducting investigations and prosecutions in an environment where vague answers rarely survived scrutiny. That background shaped the entire exchange, because Lieu approached the hearing less like a politician searching for a viral moment, and more like a prosecutor narrowing down inconsistencies one question at a time. He next turned to the FBI search of Epstein's Manhattan mansion in 2019. Lieu asked Patel whether investigators had discovered a safe inside the residence. Patel responded cautiously, saying he would accept Lieu's representation of the evidence. That wording immediately stood out. He did not confidently confirm the evidence from his own knowledge. He did not clearly explain the materials collected by the bureau he led. Instead, he accepted the congressman's description of the record. Lieu continued. Inside the safe, investigators reportedly found numerous photographs connected to Epstein's operation. Patel again answered that he would accept Lieu's representation because he did not personally have the evidence catalogue in front of him. That moment quickly became one of the most replayed clips from the hearing. Critics immediately raised the same question. How could the FBI director testify about the Epstein investigation without having the evidence catalogue available, especially when the existence of those photographs had already been reported publicly years earlier? Lieu reminded the room that major newspapers, including the New York Times, reported on the photographs back in 2019 when Epstein's arrest dominated headlines across the country. This was not hidden information. It was part of the public record. Yet Patel repeatedly answered as though he could not independently verify details already documented for years. That pattern became increasingly important as the hearing continued, because it established something larger than any single answer. Every time Patel faced a direct question, he either distanced himself from certainty or shifted toward procedural language rather than providing a clear response. Lieu then brought Michael Wolff back into the discussion more directly. According to Wolff's public statements, Epstein once opened a safe during one of their meetings and showed him photographs that Epstein allegedly described in detail. Lieu played part of a clip discussing those claims before asking Patel whether the FBI had uncovered photographs showing Donald Trump with individuals connected to Epstein's activities. Patel answered no. But Lieu immediately followed with another question. How did Patel know those photographs did not exist? Patel responded by arguing that if such material existed, it would likely have surfaced during the multiple investigations conducted across different administrations over the past 2 decades. At first, the answer sounded confident, but Lieu quickly challenged it with a specific example. He pointed out that a birthday message reportedly sent by Donald Trump to Epstein only became public because of outside reporting and disclosures from the Epstein estate, not because the FBI released it. In other words, significant material connected to Epstein had already surfaced through journalists and third parties, rather than through FBI transparency. Patel paused and acknowledged the point directly, saying, "You raise a great point." That brief sentence became one of the defining moments of the hearing, because it undercut Patel's earlier argument. Moments earlier, Patel had implied that anything significant would already have surfaced through years of FBI investigation. Lieu then presented a documented example of important material that had not surfaced through the FBI at all. And Patel agreed. The contradiction became obvious without anyone needing to raise their voice. Lieu then returned to the tapes. He emphasized that Michael Wolff's recordings represented one of the most extensive first-hand archives of Epstein conversations known to exist outside official FBI files. He again asked whether the FBI had subpoenaed those recordings. Patel again answered that he did not know. Lieu asked whether it would make sense for the FBI to interview Wolff if it had not already done so. Patel responded that he could not say for certain whether such contact had occurred and promised to follow up later. By that point, the hearing had completely changed direction. The discussion was no longer about internet rumours or conspiracy theories. It was about investigative steps the FBI either had or had not taken. Did the Bureau pursue the tapes? Did it review all available evidence? Did it contact witnesses with potentially relevant information? These were straightforward operational questions. Yet the FBI director repeatedly responded with uncertainty. Lieu next shifted toward the Epstein estate itself. He noted that some important material connected to Epstein had surfaced through estate disclosures rather than FBI investigation. He then asked whether the FBI should subpoena the estate for any remaining materials connected to the case. Patel answered that the estate was under no obligation to provide such material. Lieu immediately interrupted, arguing that the FBI absolutely has the authority to subpoena information from an estate if investigators believe relevant evidence exists. Patel pushed back, insisting that was not literally how the process worked. The disagreement was never fully resolved before time expired, but the significance of the exchange was obvious. Either the FBI had legal avenues available that it had not fully pursued, or Patel believed those avenues were more limited than critics claimed. Regardless of which interpretation was correct, the hearing left viewers with the impression that major questions remained unresolved. Then came the most controversial section of the entire exchange. Ted Lieu shifted to the issue of the so-called Epstein client list. Earlier testimony from Patel and comments from Attorney General Pam Bondi had already acknowledged the existence of records containing names connected to Epstein's network. But public confusion grew after later Justice Department statements suggested there was no definitive client list in the way many people imagined. Lieu narrowed the issue to 2 direct names. First, he asked whether Prince Andrew appeared on the list Patel had previously confirmed existed. Patel answered by saying that material involving Prince Andrew had already been made public. Lieu asked again, more directly, "Is Prince Andrew on the list?" Patel avoided giving a clear yes or no answer, and instead referenced previously released indexes of names connected to the case. Then Lieu asked the question that immediately exploded across social media and cable news clips. Within hours, is Donald Trump on Epstein's client list? Patel again avoided a direct answer. He said the released index would speak for itself. That phrasing instantly became controversial, because it sounded like a deliberate sidestep. Lieu was not asking whether Trump's name appeared somewhere in publicly released documents. He was specifically asking whether Trump appeared on the list Patel had already acknowledged existed. A direct no would have immediately ended the question. Patel did not say no. He also did not say yes. Instead, he pointed back toward previously released records without directly answering the question. Lieu closed his time by calling that refusal to answer a major red flag. He argued that the FBI director's inability or unwillingness to provide a straightforward response on such direct questions raised serious concerns about transparency and investigative completeness. Moments later, the chair ended the round, but by then the exchange had already become the dominant story from the hearing. What made those 5 minutes so significant was not that they revealed a dramatic new piece of evidence. They did not. No smoking gun suddenly appeared in the hearing room. Instead, what spread so quickly afterward was something subtler but politically powerful visible hesitation. Again and again, Patel responded to direct questions with phrases like, "I don't know," "I'll accept your representation," or "the index will speak for itself." Each answer technically responded to the question without fully resolving it. And once viewers noticed that pattern, every subsequent answer drew even more scrutiny. Critics argued that Patel appeared unprepared on one of the most publicly scrutinized investigations in modern American history. They questioned how the FBI director could lack clear answers regarding evidence catalogues, subpoena decisions, or investigative contacts involving a case discussed worldwide for years. Supporters of Patel offered a different interpretation. They argued that the FBI director was being careful not to publicly speculate about sensitive investigative material during an open congressional session. From that perspective, Patel's caution reflected institutional discipline rather than evasion. But even that defense left the same central issue unresolved. The questions themselves were simple and direct, while many of the answers were cautious, indirect, or incomplete. That gap became the story. Another reason the hearing attracted so much attention was that Ted Lieu deliberately avoided sensationalism throughout the exchange. He did not ask Patel to confirm internet rumors or anonymous online claims. Every question focused on publicly documented material already reported by major news organizations. The safe existed. The photographs had been reported years earlier. Michael Wolff's recordings were real and publicly discussed. The birthday message surfaced through outside reporting rather than FBI disclosure. None of those points were speculative. The disagreement centered on something narrower but far more revealing. Had the FBI fully pursued every available lead? Had investigators aggressively sought all relevant material? And was the Bureau prepared to confidently explain its investigative decisions under oath? Those were the questions Patel struggled to answer clearly during the hearing. The more specific Lieu's questions became, the less specific Patel's answers appeared. That dynamic created the perception problem that quickly dominated commentary afterward. Congressional hearings are not just about factual accuracy. They are also performances of credibility. Viewers judge whether officials appear informed, confident, and fully in control of the institutions they lead. In this case, many observers concluded that Patel never fully established that confidence during the exchange. By the end of the hearing, the discussion was no longer really about Epstein alone. It had evolved into a broader test of institutional trust. Could the FBI clearly account for what it had reviewed, what evidence it possessed, and what investigative steps it had taken in one of the most controversial criminal investigations in decades? Patel's answers left many people uncertain. That uncertainty became even more significant because public skepticism surrounding the Epstein case has existed for years across multiple administrations. Every unanswered question immediately fuels more speculation online. Lieu seemed fully aware of that dynamic by the end of his questioning. Near the conclusion, he stopped trying to extract detailed explanations and instead focused on the uncertainty itself as the issue. His closing remarks were not really about a single document or recording anymore. They were about the inability of the FBI director to clearly answer straightforward questions under oath. That shift mattered because once uncertainty itself becomes part of the story, every future statement receives even heavier scrutiny. By the time clips from the hearing began circulating online, two competing narratives had already formed. One side argued that the hearing exposed major gaps in the FBI's handling of the Epstein investigation and suggested key evidence may not have been fully pursued. The other side argued that public hearings are inherently limited environments where officials cannot freely discuss sensitive investigative details without risking misinformation or compromising ongoing matters. Both interpretations spread rapidly, and neither side believed the exchange fully settled anything. If anything, the hearing reopened questions many people thought had already faded years ago. That is ultimately why those 5 minutes continued spreading across television, social media, and political commentary afterward. Not because they delivered one explosive revelation, but because they revealed a repeated pattern of hesitation during direct questioning. I don't know. I'll accept your representation. The index will speak for itself. Those phrases became attached to some of the most sensitive questions raised during the hearing. And once those answers entered the congressional record, they remained there permanently, regardless of what future investigations or disclosures might reveal.